One of the items that we always see in the archiving space is I like to use the term vector. And what I mean by a vector is it could be time, it could be GPS location, it could be a project vector. So it is a data collection or a subset of the data that lives together. And we're going to use an example for geospatial data. So in geospatial, there is not only the time that I took the geospatial data, the satellite photograph, but there's also the location of that photograph. And if I wanted to, for example, follow a car or follow a truck across the United States, and I had sampling photos of every part of the United States, and I could find that actual truck in different photos, I could follow him by GPS coordinates and know which photo to look at ballpark which time. But now when I put that data into an archive and I store it over a long period of time and I need to go back, I'm looking at it in a GPS level vector. In other words, I'm going across all GPS coordinates for a certain set of days. But now instead, if I had to flip that around and I need to look at that data where it's time-based instead, I need to actually look at every bit of this highway overpass for the last 10 years. It's a different view of the archive. So those two vectors are orthogonal when it kind of comes to a tape storage subsystem, because I store the data almost always in a time domain. When I need to get the data back in a GPS domain or a GPS vector, it becomes a bigger hit on the archive when it's running behind tape. One of the things ArcticBlue gives you is the ability to power on all drives at the same time, or all data sets at the same time. And so even though we've stored data in a file domain and we've put it in sequentially over time, when we come back and go after a GPS view of that or a different view of that same storage set, we can now go across the archive in a very fast way because all data sets power up at the same time. So kind of an interesting piece for ArcticBlue, that it gives you a more value than tape, because even though you've ingested it in one fashion, you can actually pull data out in a different fashion.